China is preparing for a sea war against India and America. Let me repeat that. China is preparing for a sea war against India and the US. Chinese President Xi Jinping has already sounded the war bugle. He has met a delegation of the People's Liberation Army, also China's armed police force. He told the teams to start preparations. What kind exactly? The security teams have been told to build cyberspace defense systems. Additionally, improve the ability to maintain national security. The Chinese state broadcaster quoted Xi asking the Chinese armed forces to coordinate the preparations for maritime military conflicts, the protection of maritime rights and interests, and the developments of the maritime economy. Just look at the timing of this comment. There has been a flare-up in the South China Sea, one that the Philippines is calling the most serious yet. The Chinese Coast Guard has been ramming its ships into Philippine vessels. There were two such incidents this week. First, a Chinese Coast Guard ship crashed into a Philippine Coast Guard ship. Just an hour later, the Coast Guard ship attacked a Filipino supply vessel. The boat was blocked, harassed, and water-cannoned. And then the Chinese Coast Guard boat collided against it. We have the visuals for you. Let's play them now. Do you see what China has been up to? It is escalating tensions, trying to trigger a war at sea, all the while singing sermons of peace on land. Just yesterday, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi gave an unsolicited advice to other countries. Don't take sides in the South China Sea, he said. Here's a quote. We will not allow goodwill to be abused, nor will we tolerate the distortion of maritime law in the face of deliberate infringements. We will take justified actions to defend our rights in accordance with the law. In the face of unwarranted provocations, we will respond with prompt and legitimate countermeasures. We also advise certain countries outside the region not to stir up trouble, take sides, and become disruptors and instigators in the South China Sea. Which countries do you think China is referring to? The United States and India. Let's go one by one now. Like we have been telling you, the US and the Philippines have a defense agreement. So if one country is attacked, the other one must come to its aid. So far, the Philippines President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., or Bongbong Marcos as he's called, has insisted that the time has not yet come to invoke the clause of the Security Pact. But what happens now that Xi has sounded the war bugles and insisted on starting preparation for war? Marcos is already calling Chinese conduct alarmist. Let me quote him. I think that we cannot view this in any way but in the most serious way, he says. How long before Marcos requests the US for help? China is already preparing for that eventuality. Also for a possible confrontation with India. Beijing has already laid the foundation for a possible outpost in the Indian backyard. If you're thinking the Maldives, then you're on the correct path. Earlier this week, China signed a security agreement with the Maldives. The contents are a secret. The deal was signed a day before India commissioned the INS Jatayu in Minicoy, just some 100-odd kilometers from the Maldives. India is expanding its navy, equipping it with modern machines, commissioning new bases, jetties, machinery. Earlier this week, the Indian Navy commissioned a squadron of the MH-60 helicopter. These choppers come with anti-submarine warfare capabilities. Simply put, they will be able to spot Chinese submarines, regardless of how deep they are hiding in the sea. India and the US have signed a deal for 24 MH-60 choppers. They will all be in India by 2025. China has clearly threatened. Beijing wishes to militarize the Indian Ocean. It has tricked countries into acquiring ports in the Indian Ocean, starting from Sri Lanka's Hambantota port to the Gwadar port in Pakistan. China also has presence in Bangladesh's Chittagong port, in the Dorele port in Djibouti. And now, China is pulling the strings in the Maldives. On paper, it may have managed to acquire strategic locations encircling India, but who rules the waters these ports surround? Beijing's dreams of dominating the Indian Ocean have been shattered by India's formidable navy. India is now also building a naval base in the Great Nicobar. It overlooks the Strait of Malacca, the water body from which 80% of China's oil supplies pass. The power and potential of the Indian Navy has been on display in recent weeks. It has been saving ships from all forms of terror in the sea, from the Somali pirates to the Houthi rebels. India has proven itself as the hero of the high sea. So here's the thing. China can prepare for a sea war against India all it wants. It can prepare for a sea war against the US too. But does it even have a chance at victory? Look at the Chinese naval force vis-a-vis the Indian Navy and the US Navy. Some stats. The Chinese Navy has around 350 ships. The Indian Navy has 150. The US 280. Naval aircraft. PLA Navy a little over 700. India 400. The US over 4,000. Aircraft carriers. India and the PLA 2 each. The US 11 destroyers. PLA Navy 49. India 12. US Navy 92. We have also put the numbers for the frigates, the corvettes and submarines for you to see. So I ask, which side do you think is the stronger one, China or the combined navies of India and the United States? We are not even factoring in the navies of the American allies who will be bound to join in this war. So there goes China's plan for taking on India and America at sea. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.